design, but I wanted to apply the things I was learning here in the MRIT program. So that's when I started talking to Spencer at the redevelopment agency, and he got me over there, and then he did a promotion in economic development. So Spencer used to do, the reason why he has all that knowledge on that redevelopment is he used to do what I do now. So this is my passion, so site planning. We talk in the MRIT program a lot about highest and best use, a term. Maybe you've heard it before, but you'll hear a lot on the street with developers and designers, is the yield. If you're talking about highest and best use, you're talking about the land use, right? So you're analyzing a site, you're saying, you know, what am I going to get out of this property? Is it single family? Is that all I'm going to get? Well, there's different degrees and variations of single family, right? Lot sizes and density. Or am I going to get office? Just say you get office, but you determine that's your highest and best use, but it might have other restrictions on it, like height. So maybe it's office, but you can only go 2 stories. So highest and best use doesn't always take into consideration the density or the intensity of the use. You know, by definition, it's what's legally permissible, physically possible, and financially feasible. When you do a site plan, it should be informing this. Your site plan is an illustration of what is legally permissible and what is physically possible, and should be informing your performance. So telling you ultimately what's financially possible, right? So your site plan it feeds that highest and best use determination. When you do a site plan and you talk about yield, now you're saying based on what's legally permissible and physically possible, what am I getting? How many gross square feet of office is the site yielding based on its physical and legal constraints? How many single family lots am I getting? And so I'll go through a little bit of an exercise on single family and then some industrial flex space that'll help convey this point. First, I wanted to talk about what goes into a site plan though, because you know, green developers that are just getting started. I was fortunate enough when I was doing a lot of site planning with the boom, a lot of the big developers like Boyer, Gardner, Peterson Development, they were in transition. So they were, the guys that were really mature in the industry were giving the reins over to their sons. And so I got to work with Christian Gardner really early on, and some of these guys that were just taking over what their dads were doing, and they were green, which was awesome for a site planner, because then I got to design really cool stuff that they didn't know wasn't really financially feasible yet. And then they'd come back and tell me to change it. But I'd be a whole different site planner having gone through this program now, having the background of financial things, because that's where I was weak before. So you've got your goals and objectives as a developer. They might have some financial terms in them too, but your due diligence will impact your site plan and should shape your site plan. But also you should think about, even in the early stages, who's your tenant? Even if it's a single family home purchaser, you can, don't take that tenant term literally, but think of your end user. What do you need to get out of this site plan so that it's marketable to that tenant? And then there's community input. We all love community input, right? Depending on what you're doing, and if you have to rezone, you can open yourself up to all kinds of community input, and it will shape your site plan. And then there are design requirements. Oftentimes we think of zoning and what density limitations or height restrictions are there, but there could be some really stringent design requirements in there, and they're not always embedded in the code. I think the county, since I work there, it can be critical. They're kind of sneaky snakes when it comes to design requirements, in my opinion, because it's not built in their code. They have one line in there that says, we'll meet the County Planning Commission's design requirements, and there's a book that they have, and it's not published. You have to go in and you have to request it. And then you have the design requirements that you can work off of. So be aware of design requirements. So we just funnel all this stuff in, right? We're gonna just drop it in our awesome magic funnel. And this funnel used to be me, right? As the site planner, you would give me all this criteria, as much as you could up front, and I would pop the site plan. So the point here, your site plan is only as good as the work you put into it. Just like your performance, garbage in, garbage out. You hear the term master plan a lot and site plan. When I worked with Stantec, I did the master plan for Bingham Junction. This is what it looks like. And some people call it a site plan, depending on who you talk to. Some people call it a master plan. Really, the difference between the two is scale and detail. This I consider a master plan because it's a couple hundred acres, and I'm not going into any detail. You can see I'm just laying out major infrastructure, and you'll hear people in the industry call it a bubble diagram because sometimes those parcels, those big pads, just look like bubbles. And I'm just slapping on land uses. This was early on. We had some industrial land uses in there. We envisioned this area here to be really heavy retail, and this would be industrial. Now, of course, IHC has gone in here. There's a hotel going in down here, and all this is built out in residential. That's kind of what we envisioned from the go on the residential. Well, originally, this was planned completely different. We were going to do like an urban street along the tracks here in front of the buildings, but then we quickly learned that would be cost prohibitive. So that's a master plan. I want to show you the same site. So if you compare the two, whoops, master plan, is this a site plan? I don't know, because the scale, it just depends. I just want to let you know that these terms can be synonymous. This is the same site, and then we laid it out to make sure that we could park the office buildings, the amount of square foot. This is designed about 1 million square feet of office in here. We have a little hotel down here and some retail leading up to that. It's not being built like this because why? Plans change, and they should. They should evolve because we can't predict. This is a huge, like in terms of time schedule for this to be built out. And this has been going. See, I started in Stantec in 2006 is when I did that master plan. The multifamily took off just because of the timing of the market, right? But then, you know, IHC stuff came in here. These aren't office buildings like we're showing. A plan should evolve and be able to change. But it should also be detailed enough that it gives you direction, right? So this area right here is this, and this is what I would refer to as a site plan. It gets down to the detail, and I didn't put the tabulation in here just because I tried to keep all the stuff I worked on, but I didn't. But the full site plan here gives you a site tabulation. It tells you the overall acreage, how much open space percentage-wise is there, how many parking stalls are there. And these have to have garages. This is San Moritz, if you've driven through this. This is 7800 South here. And this is Bingham Junction Boulevard here. And so this I would consider a site plan. So just want you to be familiar with those two terms, master plan versus site plan. Cities don't have master plans per se. They have general plans. So in the hierarchy, it's general plan, 50,000 foot level. There's a lot of narrative. There's what we'd like to see happen, very little design, right? Master plan somewhere between the general plan and the site plan. Okay, so really important to know planning stages, okay? Because they're different. Not all site plans are created equally. You do a site plan for different reasons. There's a conceptual site plan, preliminary, and final. An example of a conceptual site plan, really the difference between these three is your due diligence. That's the difference, okay? If you don't label your plan as conceptual, then people are going to assume that you've done the due diligence, that this is a plan that works, right? What I wanted to point out with these two plans is one of these is a conceptual site plan, and one's actually a final site plan. This is Ivy Ridge in Lehigh. This is a final site plan. This is a conceptual site plan done for the Highlands for Peterson development in West Jordan. And the only difference really is that this one, very early stages, not a lot of due diligence. Just gave me a blank slate and said, let me see what this site would yield if there were really no impacts to the site, right? Except we know there's a creek over here. And then this one, they'd been through the due diligence. They had construction drawings done on this. They were ready to build. They just wanted something that was really awesome that they could put in their model home to market all the development that's going to happen, right? So the difference here is the concept plan usually assisting you in your due diligence. You might use it to sell investors to help you out, right? You might use it to sell the planning staff on your idea. You might use it to determine what zoning you need. You might use it just to sell your spouse or your significant other on why you're spending so much time on this project, right? Look how awesome it is. A preliminary plan takes a step further. It's got a lot more due diligence in there. I'm not saying that your conceptual plan doesn't have due diligence in it, but your preliminary has a lot more. Maybe at this stage you're ready to submit to the city and get some real feedback. Maybe as part of a rezone, you put your preliminary site plan in there. Maybe for a rezone you just do a concept plan. But those are the levels. Final is construction drawing. All your due diligence is done on the final site plan. That is your plan. It's not going to change. That's what you're going to build. Okay.
So this one on the bottom, where's that again?
That's in Lehigh. It's actually part of two-phase. This is west. There's an east side too. This is the Smith's grocery store. I can't remember the street, but it's the one that IMFT is on. What is that new expressway?
Highway 92.
What is it?
Highway 92.
Highway 92. So Highway 92 is actually running right here.
Yeah.
You can turn down into the Smiths.
Yeah.
And this road is built. I think they're indoor tennis courts built in a pool area. So that's what. So I'm going to walk through a site planning process. And it's a lot to take in, and so I'm going to start really simple. Okay, I'm going to go through a single family site plan. In my opinion, single family is the easiest thing to design. So I'm going to walk through that so you guys can get your feet wet. So this is a parcel. Let's say it's 6.89 acres, because I randomly, it just worked out to be that way. So when you're first looking at this piece of property, you know it's for sale, or you know you're going to approach the landlord or whatever. You're doing your quick and dirty, right? So you find out it's 6.89 acres, so you're going to do some math on this, right? You notice that the surrounding land uses are single family. It's currently zoned R16, which almost, even though from city to city zones can vary, if you see an R16 zone, R will usually mean residential, 1 will usually mean single family, and the 6 is your minimum lot size, standing for 6,000 square feet. So automatically, based on the zone, knowing that there's other single family around, you're thinking, and maybe you've hit the street a little bit. You talk to real estate agents, and you talk to the community council and somebody from the planning commission, and you're like, there's no way I'm getting anything any more dense than this R16, right? So you determine the highest and best use is 6,000 square foot lots. So you're going to take this number and you're going to run some math because you're awesome, right? You went through this program. And you're like, I can run a spreadsheet, I can punch this in. And you come up with this awesome little output, right? You're just going to convert the acres into square footage, and then you're going to subtract 20%. Why am I subtracting 20%?
Roads.
Infrastructure, right? It's a terrible way to do it. Don't do this. I'm going to show you why. But they teach you here, do 20%, okay? So you take out 20% so you can get your buildable area, and you end up with 40.01 lots. Do you get a 0.01 lot? You don't, so it's 40 lots, right? So I'm going to lay this out with 40 lots. Well, what haven't I asked myself yet? What homework haven't I done? Well, I haven't checked the zoning code. I know the minimum lot size is 6,000 square feet, but does my depth work here to give me lots on either side like this? You know, have I done the math to make sure that this lane is going to lay out that many lots? Just because that square footage can be divided by 6,000 doesn't mean it's going to work out to be exactly 40 lots. Don't do your pro forma on that, because then you come try to beat me up when I do a layout and you're short 2 lots, right? Happens all the time, and I have to say, well, look, maybe you shouldn't have done your performance on a good conceptual layout. But. So let's do the dimensions. So let's say I'm 1,200 feet wide and I'm 250 feet deep. Let's lay it out. So I did the same little analysis. I just took the depth and the width, and I made sure I got 40 lots here. So I'm going to design my center line. You always design my center line. One thing I hated, my first job, my associate's degree is engineering, and so I thought I'm going to go work for an engineering firm. So I went to work for an engineering firm, and I thought it'd be CAD, and because I took 11 CAD classes, and I'm a CAD junkie. I'm going to CAD this up. And they said, you need to go survey in the field and learn what you're doing before you touch the computer. And I hated them for that. And they made me do that 3 times a week for 9 months. But now I'm extremely grateful because I got to learn how things are built in the field, right? And when you use survey instruments, everything is done off road center line, okay? So you design based off road center line because that's how they're going to stake it out in the field. So there's my road center line. All I did was cut the property right in half because this should be pretty simple, right? Just do my right-of-way. A 50-foot right-of-way for most local roads, most municipalities, unless you're in Twilla, are 50-foot wide right-of-ways. Okay, and the right-of-way means whatever that legal ownership is going to be dedicated to that city or jurisdiction. Has nothing to do with the roadway improvements in there. They can have 5-foot walks, they can have 8-foot walks. It all depends on the width of the asphalt, right? So I'm just going to say it's a 50-foot right-of-way. I'm not going to worry about the street cross-section right now. And I'm going to lay out 100-foot deep lots and 60-foot wide because I did the research and I know that the zoning code says your lots shall be a minimum of 60 feet wide and a minimum of 150. So I did it. How many lots did I yield? 40. Nailed it, right? Got my 40 lots. Sweet, right? How much due diligence have we done at this point? Right? This is a concept plan. It better be labeled as such. Because I didn't even go out in the field at this point. I just maybe saw this property from an aerial, got my parcel map from the county online, and I laid this out. And hopefully you didn't do a pro forma on it yet. Because maybe if you went and walked the site, you would realize there's some topography here. And because of that topography, you can't see the line, just bear with me. I'm saying this drops off on the back of these lots and wraps around this way, okay? So now, you can't build stub a road. No city or county, no local jurisdiction is going to let you stub a road that goes off of a cliff, right? Not going to happen. So, can't do that there. Oh, what's this? Oh, I find out there's a utility easement that cuts right through where I laid one of my lots out. Not cool, right? Well, ever saw the thing, this might be a main road here too? So let's see what we uncover. Here's some steep terrain. Here's the utility easement. I forgot I pointed all these out. Maybe in the design requirements, the jurisdiction says you can only have a maximum, you'll find these, this is very common, maximum block length, 800 feet. Okay, most of them are 800 to 1,000 feet. That means they don't want you to have to walk any longer than 800 or 1,000 feet before you can cut over to the next street. So maybe you need to put stub a street in here. And maybe the county's going to pull an exaction on you and say, we need to widen this road. Or most often, it's UDOT. We need to widen this road. You need to give us some land. And so, oh, and in the design requirements, this is very common too. Corner lots, almost always are wider. Why is that?
Because they have that setback.
The greater setback. They almost treat them like a front yard on the side. Okay. Almost every jurisdiction does that. So now I know my corner, anytime I have a corner lot, it's got to be wider. And then of course a fire truck can't turn around. They're not going to go down that cliff, right? So this is bad news all the way around. So what you need to develop when you start any site plan is a base map. And what a base map is, people call all different kinds of things. It might be called a base map, it might be called, you know, an as-built, what's out there, or you know, maybe you're starting from a survey map. But the point, there's different terms here, but the point is, what your base map represents is all of your due diligence. And sometimes you don't, I mean, when you're early on in the process and you don't even know if you're going to buy a property, you're not going to have studies done and stuff. So it's just, your base map is whatever due diligence you've done to this point that's going to inform your plan. Draw that out first, so that way before I even wasted my time laying this out, I know what some of my physical restrictions are, right? So base map is the map, it illustrates your due diligence, okay? So now I'm going to start laying out with my center lines. And I know I'm going to cul-de-sac this because I got to meet the minimum turnaround for a fire truck because we design all of our residential areas for large fire trucks that never drive down them. So I'm going to put this turnaround in, and I'm going to, now I've offset a dedicated roadway here.
The fire trucks don't know how to back up, so.
They don't know how to back up.
They don't have reverse. They should just build them with reverse.
My grandpa was a fireman, and there's truth to this. They want the biggest, baddest truck that they can afford, okay? And then they'll sit on your development review committees in the cities, and they'll say, I can't get my fire truck through there. Well, no one, you went and bought the biggest, never mind, that's a soapbox, we'll keep going.
Question.
Yeah.
Using CAD software.
Yes, this is AutoCAD. There's a ton of different CAD programs out there. I started using CAD in high school as just one of those, what do you call those classes? Anyway, it's a class where you have to work very hard and vocational. It was a vocational class. I just fell in love with CAD. And so I still use it just for fun if I want to move furniture around my house. This is AutoCAD. Okay? This is AutoCAD. There's like Civil 3D, there's stuff that you can design in 3D, it's crazy, right? But I still use the 2D AutoCAD. Okay. I can use the other ones, but this is quicker to me. So now I kind of got an idea of what, see, this easement's going through this lot, but maybe I still figure I can get my building lot there. Probably not going to work out. I lay out a building lot, I'm not going to build a triangle house. So that's probably going to become a pocket park, which opens up other questions, but let's just treat it as such. So then I do my lot yield. This is my yield. My site yields 36, 35 lots, not 40. This is 13% loss on your pro forma, like the number of lots. That's a pretty big impact to your pro forma, right? So the point in this process is try to be as informed about the parcel as you can moving forward. Site planners and engineers do not get along. I officed with them for 9 years. Engineers hate me, and I don't hate them. But the reason why is because when an engineer gets a plan, you're almost always done with your due diligence, right? And what they're doing is they're engineering it, which means they're making it work. They're about function. A site planner doesn't always have the information that the engineer does. They have all the information before they go to work. Site planner has as much information as was provided in the scope of work that was given them to begin with. If my budget was $500 on this, I'm going to spend 5 hours in CAD. I'm not going to be able to research all the zoning and go out to the site, make sure it's okay. It's going to be as good as my budget was and whatever my scope of work. And maybe that's good enough to sell it to the city or the investor or whomever. It all depends on the purpose for that site plan, right? So I'm going to give you a lot yield formula. And you might be critical of it because many developers are. I'm telling you, it works. It's tried and tested. I've designed hundreds of subdivisions. Okay, maybe not hundreds. I've designed a lot of subdivisions. This is the Sand Dunes. They renamed it to High Point. This is where am I? The new temple is South Jordan Daybreak Temple's like right here. This is the road that they put in with the retaining wall right there.
Which temple are you talking about?
The Daybreak Temple.
LDS temple or?
Yeah, sorry, my bad. LDS Temple. What? I mean, we're in Utah. No, sorry, the LDS Temple is right here. Daybreak's over here. This is Bangor Highway out here. I think 114 South is right here somewhere. So there's like a gas station down on this corner, a fire station over there. And then one of these roads feeds back into Daybreak East, okay? Anyway, you can see the example I gave you of those single family lots was a rectangle, what you call a regular parcel. It's not your regulation. Those are rare, right? Like, look at the shape of this thing they gave me. It's all over the place. And I got this canal going through here. So I'm going to give you a formula that works for sites that aren't rectangle. Okay, so accounting for 20% infrastructure only works on flat site, not just a regular shaped lot, but no topography, right? Don't use 20% anymore. It's going to mess you up. It's better to be conservative because you'd like to add in a lot later rather than subtract one in your pro forma, right? So you can say I'm going to use 30% infrastructure, but it only works with flat sites, right? 20% works if it's flat and there's no encumbrances, like you don't have an easement going through it, there's no exactions for roads. 30% starts to get a lot closer. But I'm going to take it a step further, okay? This works. You take the total square foot of the site, you subtract 20% infrastructure out, and then you take into consideration the average lot size. So many people make this mistake. If your minimum lot size is 6,000 square feet, are all of your lots going to be 6,000 square feet? You freaking wish, right? They're not, because topo, when you do a cul-de-sac, they're always going to be bigger. When you do a knuckle to go around a bend, when you do a curve, your minimum width has to be 60. Where does it have to be? The frontage. So your lots are going to fan out wider in the back, right? So I do an average lot size. And what your average lot size is, you take, this is pretty good rule of thumb, okay? And this works clear up to half-acre lots. After half-acre lots, when they get that big, this rule doesn't work, okay? But works very good from anything from 5,000 square feet to third-acre lots, right here. Your average lot size is your minimum lot size in the zone plus 1,000 square feet. That 1,000 square foot buffer gives you the wider lots that have to be on the corners, and it gives you those lots that fan out around bends, okay? So then you take the square footage. I'm using the square footage in the previous example, right? You times it by 80%, because you're taking out 20% infrastructure, and then I'm using 7,000 square foot lots instead of 6, because 6 is my minimum, so I added 1,000, and that comes out to be 34.3 lots. Now, I know I showed you 35, but that example I was giving you was really flat and rectangular shape. This formula works very good for your regular subdivision that isn't perfectly shaped, okay? So I'll let you use that. I used to guard that formula, but what the heck?
We're all friends now.
So that was on France. So that was single family and what it yields. So rather than going into every product and showing you how it's laid out and designed, I think that would be very beneficial for you guys so you knew how each product type is put together. We certainly don't have the time for it tonight. So what I want to do is just hit some high points on some multifamily. When you're doing single family, you're looking for a lot yield, right? You need to know how many lots you're gonna have. When you're doing multifamily, you're looking for, a lot of developers will talk density, but really what you're looking for is your unit yield. How many units am I gonna get out of this thing, right? But some things, the major things that impact a site plan for multifamily is density restrictions that the zone that you're in will set. But that's not the only thing, right? Am I getting ahead? No. So it's not just density. Parking is the other. That's probably density number one, parking ratio requirements number two that will impact how many units you will get out of the site. And you'll see some, they're all over the place. You'll see some cities require 2 dwelling units, or 2 parking stalls per dwelling unit. And then you'll read the fine print and then 0.5 stalls for each unit per guest. It's like, really, when you do 400 units, you want 200 more parking stalls per guest. They can get out of control. And that starts to impact what your building envelope is for your parking. So this is Central Bay. This is in the district, right? So Larry H. Miller's Megaplex is right there. This is the backside. This is the boundary for Riverton, South Jordan. Banger's going over here. You know where we're at. Okay, Maverick gas stations is somewhere over here. Not in that site plan, but this one. Right? So there's actually an easement that runs along the west side of the Megaplex Theater and goes right through there. Van, big utilities, trunk lines. But you wouldn't know that from driving in the site because we were able to put the asphalt over and keep the buildings out. And then if you curb the roads, people don't feel that corridor, that tunnel vision, right? What we did on the parking ratios, because they are so impactful, is we convinced South Jordan City to let us park on the street out here. And we counted that as our parking ratio. And I twisted those roads and bent them. And my wife, we frequent this movie theater, she complains about these roads every time we drive on them. But there's a reason why I did it. Because we're parking people out here, and people are coming in and out of those apartment buildings. I don't want cars racing like it's the Autobahn on there. You do drive slow because of those curved roads. Engineers hate planners for curved roads. Why? Creates more work for them. They get paid the same whether it's a curved road or a straight road, right? Anyway, so big impacts to multifamily. Please remember, density requirements, parking ratios, but also your height restrictions. Because if the city said limits you at 3 stories, even though stick frame garden style apartments can go 4, you may not be able to do it because that may be a restriction. So those are the 3 things. Also, your product type will limit density. Garden style apartments max out at 25. Never ever design one more than 25. That's with the most lenient design requirements, and pack them and stack them. 25 dwelling units per acre. You're not getting better than that, okay? Usually your garden style apartment is going to run between 18 and 22, somewhere in there. Townhomes, never pack them and stack them tighter than this. This is 12 dwelling units per acre, okay? You're going to max out townhomes, 12 units. All right, awesome. Moving on. Retail office. This is the Park City Tech Center up there in Summit County, across from Redstone. This may not look, this is the roundabout to Walmart, that new one they put in, right? We designed to fix that crappy intersection. Walmart's over here. This is a new park and ride for non-UTA. Actually, UTA is going to come up and use it. There's going to be a transition from UTA to whatever Park City's bus service is. So these are office buildings here. What you're trying to yield when you're looking at retail and office is your gross square footage when you're doing the site plan. How much gross square footage can I get? And the things that impact you there are going to be parking ratios, height restrictions, and open space requirements. And I should have mentioned open space on multifamily too, but also access. Access was a really big one on this one, where they wanted their access. That controlled how the site got laid out and ultimately had a big impact on how many square feet.
What's the location of this again?
So the Olympic Park, if you turn on this road and go up there, you're going to wind up to Olympic Park. So the ski jump is down here. You know, ski jump's overlooking this.
Okay, so those
Like
buildings,
that tower.
This one's built.
that's where Park City, there's kind of the municipal, or Summit County?
That's a library there, existing library.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is the new Summit County offices. They're gonna move from Colville to here. Okay, cool. Industrial flex space. This has got some commercial uses, some office, but here's the industrial flex here. The biggest impacts to industrial flex space, if you start to leave the parking rail and you start to go into the access and the truck circulation. Because if you don't have wide enough asphalt areas to get those trucks in and out to the back, because you know their office in the front, party and what is it? Business in the front, party in the back. It's like, yeah. I think industrial flex is like a bullet. Okay, that's what I'm getting at. So you've got your parking stalls up front for your office use, but then you've got to make sure you have enough room to go around the back for your trucks. And so access, including rail, if you cater to tenants, that's knowing your tenants, right? If you're catering to tenants that need rail, then that could be a big impact too. And then parking ratios do play into it, but I would say that the other two have a bigger impact. So to wrap up, I want to show you a plan that I recently did and show you how I started, okay? This is a couple slides. But this is an industrial flex park, and it's located off of Rockwell Business Park, or Rockwell Business Boulevard, sorry, my bad. I mean, Rockwell Business is really original. But this is Redwood Road. Mountain View Corridor stops right here, right? And you take Porter Rockwell Boulevard down to Redwood Road. That's where we're at. So this site is so encumbered. When they gave it to me, I thought, I'm not going to be able to do anything. You know, there's real value in taking a raw piece of ground and then creating a vision for it. And that is not valued in the industry. They just want the function. They want the CAD. Give me the product, right? But if you could give this to 10 different designers and they come up with 10 very different plans, okay? So just to give you some ideas of the encumbrances here, we've got a canal running right through the middle. I color it blue so that it looks pretty, but it's not pretty when you go out there, right? This is a power transmission corridor running right through the middle. It's over 100 feet wide. I can't remember, it's like 150 feet wide. Those dots are those giant steel, you know what I'm saying? These are not your wood telephone poles. They're huge. So I put them dots so I can see them. This is a gas transmission line, double line, 30-inch gas lines going through there, 2 of them, right? This is a water aqueduct. It's just like this concrete underground culvert, right? And then this is a power line, just your traditional power line with wood poles. And it cuts through the property down here. On top of that, this whole thing is sloping down towards Redwood Road. It's just a hill that goes up. So how am I going to lay something out here is what I'm thinking. Well, let me tell you something. CAD is an awesome tool, but it's rigid. It's lines that, you know, you get into the 90 degrees and you lose your creativity. So I always start my site plans out by hand drawing them. So I'll just kind of show you what I came up with. So I hand drew this on some onion paper. Remember, my base map's underneath. It's all the due diligence that the developer's done and just handed me. You know, that's probably thousands of dollars of work that's underneath this already. And I just sketched out, well, I'm going to put some industrial flex space along here. I got to run with the topo. I can't put streets going, you know, east-west, because even if I could afford to cut them in, I don't have a building pad when I'm done. The soil's going to be really tall, and so I got retaining walls. You can't access your pad. So I need to run them north and south as much as possible. Where it does flatten out is down here just a little, and maybe I can get a crossing on the canal over, just so I can get circulation. Because you can't go in and dead end, right? Fire is always going to want ingress and egress, right? So they got to have 2 ways in and out. So they said they want a commercial pad, so I'm like, maybe I'll put a gas station here. You just go up the freeway, that'd be cool. And you can put roads on most easements, okay? You can't put what they call permanent structures, which is basically anything vertical. They usually won't agree to that. And I'm talking power lines, gas easements, whatever. But almost all of them will let you put roadway improvements on them. And then if they have to dig them up, then you just need to be aware that they have the right to do that. So here's the power line. So I cross under the power line, and I have a road in the power corridor here. I have another access here. But this actually sketch 5 that I did by hand you have a question?
Just a question, when you're drawing on the site plan, so you see that road on the right that kind of goes into nowhere?
Yeah.
How do you design that with the other parcel in mind? Like, I mean, and I guess for future stuff, is just whoever's in there first gets to decide how it goes and they have to work off what you did?
Yeah.
What if what you did, like, makes that other site just useless?
As a developer, are you concerned what that guy's doing?
No, I'm just curious
You
what the
should
city's
be.
gonna say.
Okay, I trapped you in that because that's what every developer that walked in my door would say the same thing. Don't stub a road to them, you know, only if it yields me more do you stub a road. But I know that the city's not going to go for that. And actually, I was armed with some information from the developer already. He'd been in to talk to the city, and the city, Harriman in this case, said, look, we know this guy's getting ready to develop and he needs an access. And he's not getting, we already know UDOT's told him he's not getting it off a river road. So you're not going to landlock him. You got to stub an access. So that's why I did it in this case. But that is something you should be cognizant of is what's built around you, because the city, they like connectivity, right? Because they're going to manage this thing long term, and everybody wants good circulation. I hate cul-de-sacs. That's another soapbox that I won't get on. But connectivity is good, right? So anyway, yeah, I stubbed this road because I knew that.
Does the city say that you have to give them access, or does it specifically say, you know, kind of where you need to give them access? Like, you give them access to the top point, and they, you know.
I could have, in this scenario, I was limited because of the canal. I could have given them access down here where the topo didn't allow me. I could have, the city didn't care so long as I gave them access here, and they didn't make us go talk to this property owner to make sure that access was good. I was just nice enough to know, look, there's a wash that goes through here. I was nice, I stubbed them something that will work. But yeah, cities usually aren't sophisticated enough to tell you exactly where to put that. They might tell you to go talk to the adjacent property owner. I'm just trying to be a good neighbor and give them a viable one. But yeah, usually you don't work that out with your neighbor. So there's my hand sketch. So I turned that hand sketch into this. I drew this up in CAD and I took it in Photoshop. So they ended up after that sketch wanting a car wash. So that's an auto car wash there. And then I turned that in. Well, you can't really see the encumbrances, so I'm going to light them up for you. Those were my encumbrances. So I avoided them all. And then I did a tabulation. I don't know if I have it yet. So then I tabulated how many square feet they're yielding. And, you know, I broke it off into areas, into phases up here, because the utilities are already brought up here. And so they want to do this as the first phase, because they already have a tenant interested in this gas station. So they'll probably build out this right here, because it's pretty economical, stub it here, come back, build this phase later. And now they have an indoor gun range interested in this pad. So I thought, are they really going to pay? Because I know this is a lot of road just for this pad right here, right? But I can't go up on this topo. So I just threw them that pad and gave them the option that you could just terminate this road here and not build this out. But it turns out, once I took the site plan and took it out to the market, that that indoor gun range is really excited about that pad because they're isolated, right, from everybody, and you can shoot them up.
What do you do with the power lines?
So the power lines remain.
Okay.
Okay, they're right here, and so my asphalt for the trucks turning in, and this is the back of this industrial park, right the back of the buildings. So the trucks come back here and load in there. So they're going underneath the power corridor, the 18-wheelers or whatever they're using to load. But none of the buildings sit in any one of those. So the water aqueduct, well, this is a lot of wasted space back here, right? Because you've got a power corridor, gas easement, and a water aqueduct. But what they're going to market this as back here is outdoor storage. A lot of these industrial flex space users want outdoor storage. So they can store stuff on top of it, we just can't do it. So I can't remember how many square feet it was 760,000, something like that, square feet of flex warehouse space. So that's my site plan administration. I have a few conclusions. Try to get your site plan done before all your due diligence, because they can inform each other, right? Sometimes you don't know what to ask about a site, but you start laying it out, and it can help you perform your due diligence. But again, garbage in, garbage out, so the more due diligence you can get up front, and that usually is a matter of how much money you have up front, right? The better your site plan will be, because it will be more accurate. So a good site plan will do many things. I kind of alluded to these already, but it could help sell investors. It can help sway elected officials, planning staff, planning commissioners, and you know, your wife or husband on your awesome idea. That's really important. There's value in that you may not get out of a yield. You know what I'm saying? Because you may show that you have 40 lots, but if you can't sell these people, you have 0 lots. So it better be sexy too, that's what I'm saying. So it'll save you money and brain damage by reducing a good site plan, right? You're doing a performer at the same time. A good site plan will save you a lot of brain damage if you're not going in at the last second and adjusting your performa based on things you just learned that are impacting your site plan, right? And then of course your civil engineer won't tell you this, but you bring a already CAD'd up site plan to them, and it's going to save them time. And if you know that, then you can get their price down. Because otherwise, if they're doing it off of a hand sketch or just some big long speech that you give them, they've got to start from scratch, right? And they're going to charge you more for that. So if you go in with a good CAD file of your site plan and say, I want you to start from this, you can save yourself some money that way too. Any questions?
So you said that, I mean, as your site plan is always changing. What advice can you give on how to mitigate those risks of that changing site plan? You just go base like a bare minimum what the least you could do on that site and as your base, and then hope you can build up from that.
I'm glad you brought that up because this is very, very important, and it's really easy to do this. It's really easy to get emotionally attached to your project and don't. What you need to be looking at is the financial impacts to your project, right? So if you go before a community and they're giving you what you think are outrageous requirements, but what you need to think is, how much is this costing me? Is this really going to kill my project financially, or do I just not like what they're saying? So you should only change your site plan where you have to, but recognize that it is going to change, and just don't be so emotionally attached that you don't want to change it, because it just, it could kill the project in the end. Thank you, Abby, and then we'll go for it.
Could you give us an idea on timeline for conceptual versus final site plan? Like how much time should we build into?
It really depends on the jurisdiction that you're dealing with, on the time frame there. The really good ones, West Jordan, is as much as they beat me up over the years. I actually live in West Jordan. I really disliked their staff for beating me up, but at least it was very clear in their ordinance what the steps were, and they actually had a conceptual, preliminary, and final site plan outline, and you could go from concept plan to final plan in 6 months. But a lot of that, they would say 3 to 6 months, but there's no way you would do 3 months, right? And do you have the zoning in place? Because anytime you run a public process in there, and most jurisdictions, it's a separate process for a rezone, it's a separate process for a site plan review, and then it's a separate process for final site plan review. And so anytime you have a public hearing, that's 3 months, okay? 3 months for a public hearing. So if you have to go through all that, that's 9 months. If you go through Salt Lake County where it's not clear in your ordinance, you need to go in, and there's no harm in going in and talking to a planner before you've laid anything out to understand what their process is and what they want to see, because it's different in every jurisdiction. That will save you a lot of heartache. But yeah, a general rule of thumb from preliminary to final in Utah, I'd say 6 to 12 months. And you know what, developers will complain about that, but you can just times that by 4 if you're in California, right? Brody?
As far as the utilities and stuff, you have, I don't know if there's like a good place to go to, 'cause it's like, say we mess with the, let's say it's a water district or something. Do you have,
Resource to go to?
resources to go to for like power?
It's a really good question, because I think the green developers assume that the cities control all that stuff, or at least have all that information. And in Utah, we are very segregated through special improvement districts. And so you might have a water line that the water in it, as we were just talking about this today, the water in it's coming from Central Valley water and Jordan Valley water, so in turn selling it to the local district, the water in it. Then who controls the water line? Well, it's probably your local district. And it's scary enough, your special improvement district should know where their lines are. But they don't. What's scary to me is they don't always have them in a format that you, like CAD or GIS, that you can work with them. It might literally be a red Sharpie on a map that someone gave them to quit, and they're just kind of guessing where it is. So that's where, if you guys are going to spend money in your due diligence, the best place to spend money is a survey. And if you can afford it, ALTA survey. I had that in here, I took it out today, I just thought I was going too long already, but people call them alpha surveys, but it's an acronym. acronym, ALTA, and it ties that survey to your tile report. And when they go out there, have them do everything at once because it'll save you money, but dip the manholes. They'll go out there and they'll shoot the rims of the manholes, they'll pull off the lids. I had to do it. It's not a fun job, but it gives you the data you need. When they dip the manholes, it tells you a lot about it. They'll also tell you what's the size of the manhole. The size of the manhole will give you an indication what the size of the pipe is. And they can even find out what the velocity is that's flowing in there. And they can tell you how deep the manhole is. And that'll tell you what direction if it's sewer, that it's flowing or storm drain. But a lot of it's just some field work on your own. Walking out there, read the manhole lids to see what they are. And then go to your special improvement districts. A lot of the time, the cities don't even talk to those districts. Not in terms of capacity, not where the lines are located, nothing. So your best money spent is with your surveyor. But I would start, if I was doing research, I would start by going to my city website and seeing what they have online for their maps. And then going to whatever special improvement districts have jurisdiction. Usually the stormwater is controlled by the city, but water and sewer are generally special improvement districts. And then as far as power and gas, both Rocky Mountain Power and Questar have departments that are set up to deal with developers. That's all they do. And so they're going to, I don't have they have regions, I don't have that contact info with you, but when you get a hold of that information, you can simply give them a call, tell them where you're working, you want some information. They even, a lot of the time will say, why don't you come in and meet with me? And they'll give you a map. They want you to know where their lines are because they don't want you to hit them. So, and the sneaky way, you call blue states, it's illegal, but you call blue states and say, I'm getting ready to dig a hole, can you come out and mark? And they'll come out and mark all the utilities and you can kind of get an idea of where they are, right? But you're only supposed to do that if you're getting ready to dig, not for your due diligence, so I didn't tell you to do that, right?
Do you get a topo with an ALTA?
You do, with ALTAs, you do get topo. That's important, because if you ask for a survey, there's all different types of surveys, right? If they just go out and do a survey, a boundary survey, all you're going to get is what your legal parcel, what you control land, right? If you ask for a boundary topo survey, you get the legal boundary and the topo, but you may not get any of the encumbrances, right? You may not know where the easements are. You may not know some of the, like, when they do full ALTA, they'll even shoot things on the ground, like if they see something that's weird, like a mound of rocks, they'll shoot that in there really detailed. I shot a dead loaded horse once, just to be funny, and called it out on ALTA. But you get that level of detail there, and then your title company backs it up, right? Because there's a relationship with that title company and that surveyor, and then the surveyor puts his professional stamp on there, and then that really, it removes a lot of liability in banks like ALTs, right? So, but the thing is, people don't want to do those up front because it costs so much money, and that's your soft costs up front. You don't have any revenue coming in, so people don't like to do that. But if you do that up front, it'll save you money in the long run because you're going to do one. Approved banks can ask you for one eventually. So if you do it up front, you have all your information.
To run ALTA, should we just plan on using that rest of our career so if we sound legit instead of saying?
Yeah, people say altitude. It's okay. Either one's
It's okay.
Yeah. Well, if you really want to sound like you know, it's ALTA. And if you really, really want to know what you sound like, you know what the acronym stands for.
And then we did city American Fork on this.
No, I haven't. That's why I was asking the question. We were out there on site where their sewer line is and where they're at. And notice he didn't know exactly where they were. It sounds like they have special improvement districts too. But the most expensive thing to extend to your site is sewer and water. Those two are the most expensive. These dry utilities are pretty cheap. Knowing that sewer line is so close, a trunk line, it's going to be really cheap. So if you're phasing your project, you of course want to start on that west end because you don't want to run your longest length of sewer pipe to start your first phase. Then you just put in a lot of offsite costs, right? So you usually start your phasing where you have good access for vehicles and good access to utility tie-ins. So it sounds like the water's on the other side though, which creates some unique. And you want to know capacities too because if they don't have capacity for you in water, then you could be participating in a water tank, right, or a pump. Or if it's sewer, the sewer treatment plant where there's not capacity